everybody. Welcome to Friday Night Live. And this week we're going to discuss self-judgment. I know I'm very guilty of that.
The biggie.
And sometimes I don't even realize I'm being self-judgmental other than how I feel. There can be a subconscious, deep down set of beliefs or set of thoughts that we believe to be true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's something very common. It's we're all guilty of it or innocent of it.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that.
I remember once doing a talk to quite a few people, and I said, who here judges themselves? And everybody put their hand up. Some people put both hands up, and other people put their hands and legs up. And I know for me, I think I've probably got a good PhD from one of the top universities in self-judgment. What about you?
I have a double PhD.
You've got a double
I'm
PhD.
way ahead of you.
So the purpose of this Friday Night Live is to talk about this and see if we can degrade you from a PhD maybe to a degree or potentially to just like a high school education.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more we uneducate self-judgment, the better we feel.
Right.
So I like that you said we're guilty of it.
Yeah.
And that's the trouble. And we're innocent. Because you said both things in two there. Because we feel bad that we're doing it, but we're all innocent and that we all do it. Or I can't say everybody, that most people will do self-judgment. Self-judgment meaning I'm not good enough, people don't like me, I'm useless, I'm ugly, I'm fat, I'm thin, what will they think?
They don't want to be around me.
I'm always like this, but et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's like the internal critic, if you will. So what spurred this one, actually, I was talking to a client recently, and when there was changes, he found himself reacting quite badly in a stressed or negative way or an angry way. He couldn't deal with change very well, but his wife dealt with change really well. And he said, well, what's wrong with me? Why have I got this problem? The first things is that there's about 7.6 billion people. What the commonality is that everybody thinks. Right. But where we're all unique is that same power, that same one power to think is so unique. We've got 7.6 different kinds of thinking happening with each person. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because we all think different, or we've all got a different internal perception, if you want to look at it that way, we're all going to behave different. We've all got a different belief system. So give me a deadline to do with perceived not enough time, I can get overwhelmed. Give it to Jules and she'll see it as a challenge.
Right, because we're just 7.6, 7.8 beautiful, unique diversities with our own set of collection of thoughts running through our head. But circumstantially speaking, that's what we filter our reality from. So Rudy can handle one thing beautifully, and then I get all stressed out about it, and vice versa. So we're going to talk about that.
Yeah. So because we've all got our own set of triggers, we're all going to react differently to different situations. Now, it's never, ever, ever what's happening to us. It's happening what's coming through us. Meaning that if you've got life here, life doesn't create your reaction. There's life, there's how you perceive, think about your belief system about this, and then there's a reaction.
Yeah.
So when we come back to the topic of judgment, I kind of found myself doing this diagram with a client. I thought we'll just do it. It may be helpful, maybe not be helpful to you. But
diagrams are always helpful.
I'll give it a go. I don't know what accent that was. You can perceive whatever you like and come up with all manner of different examples of that. So let's take the client. The client was, so when change happened, there's reaction. And give us some reactions that you don't like happening, like self-judgmental, you can get judgment about.
I'm feeling insecure, and I don't like feeling insecure, feeling sad, feeling stressed, uncomfortable.
Stressed, uncomfortable,
overwhelmed.
I get angry, and get sad. So, put sad twice. So when we're acting in a way, when we're feeling in a way, when we're acting in a way that we don't like, we get judgmental of that. Like I wish I wasn't doing this. Why am I doing this? I shouldn't be doing this. I'm always doing this. There's judgment about your state of mind or your behavior.
Right.
Okay. So what that really is, judgment. So give me some judgmental thoughts you have about yourself.
Why am I always crying? Why do I always feel insecure? Why do I,
why?
It's basically just why am I having this reaction?
I shouldn't be having this.
I shouldn't be, yeah.
Why am I always having this?
Mm-hmm.
And that could,
why can't I do this better? Why can't I do this differently?
Yeah. So what's happening? Something's happened. You're reacting. So you're being in a way you don't really want to be being. And then there's judgment about your actions. Now, the problem isn't self-judgment. The problem is that we get judgmental about our judgment.
Right.
So
we suffer our suffering.
So here you've got you can get judgmental about that you're being judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
I can get judgmental people. Can you believe that? It's totally insane that you get judgmental of judgmental people, because you're just adding yourself to the same list. But in our heads, we can get judgmental that we're being judgmental of ourselves, and we can get judgmental that we're being judgmental about our judgment. It's just like this never-ending plethora of thinking of yourself and not liking it.
So the perfect example of that is Rudy went to the gym, and it was rainy and getting dark, and I drive at night and Rudy drives during the day. But he was out driving at night.
I'm not great driving at night.
In the rain by himself. And I messaged him and his phone was off or out of service, which happens a lot here in Hawaii. So I began to worry. I had a reaction. And then I started judging myself, because I'm thinking, I'm doing it again. Why am I having this reaction? I'm sure he's fine. Why can't I just be fine? And then he comes home and I said, why didn't you call me? You should have let me know. You're out driving by yourself in the rain at night. And then I began feeling bad because I had that reaction. So I began judging my judgment about my judgmentalness to this reaction. And when that's all said and done, we kind of forget. We lose sight of really what happened. So I just wanted to throw that example.
Oh, that's a beautiful example. It's a bit like the plane goes through the blue sky and it leaves a contratrail. Sometime, like, the plane could be something over here, and this is all the contratrail of what happened. And we live in the contratrail, and the plane's completely disappeared. You've forgotten what spurred it all, but you're living in the feeling of the after effects of all of it. Yeah,
so we're having an emotional response, not to what's happening, but eventually to what's our thinking about how we reacted to what's happening, and then our thinking about our thinking, and then our thinking about our thinking about our thinking. And that's all an emotional response that we are getting to experience right now and right here.
Yeah. it's amazing how creative we're actually going to do if I don't live on creation. We'll talk more about that, but we're very, very creative. So you may be thinking, well, this is great, but how does this help me with my own judgmentalism? Now, I can put a line down here. What would happen if we embraced and accepted that we're human and we have triggers, and sometimes, more than sometimes, we don't behave or act or feel the way we would like to behave or act or feel? And that is universally true for everybody.
Right.
When we feel that we should be perfect and we should always act in a certain way and be and feel in a certain way, that is a strong belief to live up to. And in fact, the more of a perfectionist you are, or the more you feel you should be this way or that way, the more innocently we let ourselves down, and the more innocently we knock ourselves off the pedestal, because it's impossible to be perfect.
Right.
This energy or this power or this force or this nature enlivening us is kind of perfection, living through this apparently imperfect human being. But it's the imperfectness that makes us human, that brings us to our knees. It can make us feel down so we can get a different perspective, so we can say sorry, like, I'm not talking right or wrong experience here. I'm just talking the fact of experience has to happen and can only happen through imperfection.
Right.
Now, when we fully embrace that we can only do the best we can, because if we could do better, we would. But if we can't in that moment, we literally can't do any better than we can do. What can happen? We can have a trigger. We can react in a way, feel a certain way, maybe behave in a certain way. If we behave badly, we can apologize afterwards. But if there's just a reaction, we feel like we do, and there's a full stop or a period if you're American, full stop, our psychological immune system will naturally take us back to equilibrium really quickly. But what happens is when we do not embrace our humanness and feel we should be doing better than we do, we immediately start going into judgmental thinking of ourselves and others and how we acted, judgmental about our judgmentalism, and getting judgmental that we're judgmental about our judgmentalism. We're shoulding all over ourselves and whying and I shouldn'ting. And it ends up in a thought storm of self-judgment.
Mm-hmm. So resisting our initial reaction is really what prolongs the healing. It's like we have to feel to heal and move through it.
I love that's another word for it, resisting. Mm-hmm. What would happen if we didn't resist our humanness?
Yeah. And we can feel that in our body. When we resist, we're contracted. And when we embrace, we expand with open arms. And it's okay to cry. It's okay to be happy and sad and tearful. In a way, it's a manifestation of internal cleansing. It's a physical manifestation of cleansing. That's how I like to look at it.
I used to think, I like when you said that it's okay. I swapped my transcending the human experience belief to accepting the human experience. Right. Because when you try to transcend something, become more, go higher, it's a noble cause, but we're spiritual beings living in a human body that's impermanent and it breaks down, it has hormones and it has emotions and it gets injured and it can die. Like, freedom has nothing to do with your state of mind or your state of being, and everything to do with allowing all of it to happen with freedom. And when we stop the resistance to our humanness, the humanness can turn into a horror story, from a horror story into romantic comedy. You start laughing at yourself.
Right.
You start apologizing more.
You start understanding.
Yeah, the only way back to wholeness, in my mind, that's universal mind or God or pure consciousness, is love, because that's what love is.
Right.
We can't berate and judge and separate ourselves back to wholeness. You can only love yourself back to wholeness because it's the same vibration. And in my mind, in unconditionally embracing that we're fallible, that we're human, that we make mistakes, that we're going to react and we're going to be stupid. And me, I do that quite a lot.
I get all sad and weepy.
It's just, stop giving yourself a hard time. Stop it. Love yourself unconditionally. If you're a parent, you can do it with your children, or most of us can do it with our children. How about we do it for ourselves too?
That's beautiful.
Anything else?
No. Mm-mm.
So, hope that's kind of helpful. If you're judging yourself, don't judge yourself that you're judging yourself. Just judge yourself and let it go.
Right.
So lots of love to you. Don't judge us for this. Oh, that's terrible. But we'll see you next week on the next Friday Night Live. All right, bye for now.